How's it going, everyone? This is Zach with the Guardians of Liberty podcast, and I am here with Adam Kokesh, who is running for not president.
Fair enough.
Has that changed?
No, it's the same. Just every time I hear someone say, and he's running for president, like I cringe. And it builds up over time, and it gets worse and worse because, yes, technically I am running for president of the United States, but I don't think there's anything more anti-freedom or unlibertarian you can say than, I want to be president of the United States. I want to be in charge of this giant violent monopoly and force my ideas on an entire country. It's insane. So I am running for president, but it's on the platform of dissolving the federal government. So it's much more accurate to say that I'm running for not president. But technically, I am running for the position that will be created. Should I win, I will be president long enough to sign one executive order in which the federal government is declared of no authority. Everyone in federal prison for victimless crimes is pardoned, and I resign from the presidency to become custodian of the federal government in the role of a bankruptcy agent that is laid out in detail, agency by agency, so on and so forth, through that executive order. Now that we've got that out of the way.
Yeah, there we go. And I can't remember his name now but he was super entertaining down in Texas. There was a guy running for not governor. Was that like, did you guys talk about that, or is that just? Is there an inside joke that I'm not aware of?
No, he's great. And it was I was actually surprised pleasantly to see how well he did. Mm-hmm. There was another friend of mine there, Corey Watkins, who was running for governor on a voluntarist platform that was pretty much the same thing. I don't want to speak for either of these gentlemen, but
yeah.
Very, very similar approach policy wise. And they both had a great showing in that race. Unfortunately, neither of them got the nomination, but we were happy that at least a true libertarian, as opposed to the statist in the race there. And with all due respect to Kathy Glass, she's not quite a libertarian and has done some things that probably have set the party back in Texas. But we don't need to get
that's what we heard when we were down there. We had some video with some of the candidates, and I ended up not using it because my microphone doesn't work with my phone, apparently. So it was really crappy audio. But I really liked Corey. He had the most excited followers, that's for sure. And
yeah, absolutely.
I don't know if followers is the right word because we're libertarians, but the people who were supporting him were definitely the most enthusiastic.
He was doing some stuff with his campaign, especially around marijuana rights and gun rights there they did an open carry marijuana march, right, at outside the convention. So that was really cool.
Yeah, that was fun. That was actually where I got to talk to him was during that. So, but anyway, so let's get back to you. I
gotta say, first, just general props to Mr. Tippett, the winner of the gubernatorial nomination in Texas. He's someone who's going to represent the party well there. I'm glad we have a good candidate in Texas.
So did you hear about our attempt to start a hashtag for him?
No, I missed that story.
I'm very proud of this one. I came up with the idea that, like Gary Johnson had Feel the Johnson towards the end, he should be using just the Tippets.
I don't know. I mean,
when I brought this up to him, he said his wife would kill him, so I don't think it's going to go anywhere.
Yeah, no. I mean, I'm all for humor, obviously, and I'm all for body humor, but I think that's just cheap.
It's politics to me. That's what I think of.
There's something like if you're gonna go dirty humor, have an adult edge to it, I guess. But there's ooh, Feel the Johnson, ooh, just the Tippets. So maybe it's just aesthetic, but I don't really like those.
I mean, it's fine. I see politics as being very childish, so I adjust my humor accordingly.
Yeah, You did not hear me say it was inappropriate.
So, you've been still very busy since the last time we spoke. What's been going on? Like, where have you hit recently? What kind of things have you done? Just kind of fill
Well,
people in.
actually, I got a really nice week off at home at Freedom Farm to play with my chainsaw and do a little building, so that was fun. But we've been spending the last few months, except for that, on the road all over the country, going to as many Libertarian Party state conventions as possible and encouraging people to be involved. And I can't remember, did I do the sort of inside baseball math breakdown on the delegate race for you? Because it's pretty cool. I can do it.
Go ahead.
All right, so in 2014, the last year that we had a Libertarian National Convention, because they happen every 2 years. Mm-hmm. The last time we had a Libertarian National Convention where we were not nominating a presidential and vice presidential candidate, 2014, there were about 400 delegates at the National Convention seated properly, representing their states, out of roughly 1,000 possible slots. 2016 comes around. Greatest year ever for libertarians, greatest opportunity. At the end of convention season, there were still only 800 filled. There were still at least 200 empty. That's how Johnson won the nomination, by bringing those people in. But if you think back to 2014, it's even crazier to think that anybody who could get 401 people or 600 people would be a lock, 2/3. Anybody in the world who could get 600 people in the United States to show up to 2 meetings, a state convention and the national convention, could have taken over the party in 2014. Just totally taken over. I mean, the only thing they couldn't have done is change the statement of principles, because that's a 7/8. That's a really enshrined in the state, in the national bylaws. I love that about the Libertarian Party. But you could have walked in with 401 people out of those 600 plus empty slots in 2014 and just taken over. Mm-hmm. What we have been doing now for 2018, which is another off year, I think let's say the party had grown some, from like 400 to 500. There would still be, at most state conventions, less than half of the delegate slots being filled. And that's how it is. When there's like 400 out of, 1,000, means at a state where there's like 10 slots, there might be 20 people at a small state convention, and they go, all right, who wants to go to national? And 4 people raise their hands. They go, okay, you guys are in. If there's 11 people for 10 slots, and they go, all right, who's going to volunteer to be an alternate, and we'll get you in on another state. It's always been like that. California is notorious for this, because they always have over 100 slots, and they usually only fill like 30 or 40. And the rest get filled from people from out of state, if at all. Mm-hmm. This year so far, almost every single state in the country has had a competitive delegate process. They are going to nationals, the national convention, with a full slate of delegates, many with full alternate slates. California didn't quite fill theirs, but they got to, and I was there. I was really excited to be encouraging and nominating people from the floor. 104 out of 109 delegate slots filled. That's pretty good. When they're normally at like 30 or 40. That's the kind of shift that we have seen. And I don't want to brag, but my team has done an incredible job encouraging people, especially philosophical libertarians, true libertarians, voluntarists, to libertarians of principle, to get involved with the party, to convince them and to show them really that there's not a single problem with the LP that the person complaining about it cannot solve by showing up and doing something about it themselves. Even if you didn't like the nominees in 2016, one person who knew what they were doing with the delegate process on any of the other serious campaigns, McAfee, Peterson, Perry even, they had one person calling around the country, motivating people, getting delegates on board, saying, go to your state convention, go to national convention. Gary Johnson would not have been the nominee. It probably would have been Peterson, but yeah, I still would have rather had Peterson than Johnson.
Okay. So from Nebraska, we filled our 8, which is kind of pathetic when you think about you talking about California, but we have 8 and 2 alternates, and that's I think that's pretty cool. Like I would think I was the last one picked. I wasn't actually at the state convention. I had to work, but
so in absentia, you managed to become an alternate.
No, I'm a full delegate.
Oh, awesome! Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's great.
And I thought I was going to have to give up my spot, but then someone kind of swooped in and was like, I can cover a lot of the expenses to get you there. And it's like, let's do this.
Yeah.
So there's some cool libertarians out there.
Yeah. And every time I go to these conventions, I've been saying, look, nobody, and you know, it's funny because we're talking about this now. It's almost irrelevant because it's, you know, there's one convention weekend left this next weekend, and we're going to be in Ohio. Right now we are in Missouri, on our way to Columbus, Ohio, and we might be taking a little jaunt down to South Carolina to make an appearance at their convention over the weekend as well. But this is one convention left. But everywhere I go, I tell people, if you want to be a delegate, don't not sign up today when you have the opportunity to secure a spot because of lack of funds. Someone will be there to help you make it happen. I will be there to help you make it happen. It's one of the things my campaign is doing to help make it happen. I'm sitting here right now with our national delegate coordinator, Elijah Gitzarelli. And I mean, I've actually been shocked, as well as we have done in packing the delegations, how few requests we've had. Because it's amazing how people are stepping up to help out each other. Now, yeah. Elijah, after this, you know, this last convention weekend, is going to be focusing on logistics for the national convention. And a lot of that's, you know, helping people get inexpensive housing, sharing Airbnbs, sharing hotel rooms, sharing rides, transportation, stuff like that. I have directly given money to 5 or 6 people right now, you know, a couple $100 here and there to like activists who I like personally care about. I'm like, you know, it's a priority for you to be at this convention. Let me give you some money, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And because they were asking and they were saying like, this is, you know, I said like, look, you know, you've earned it. Let me take care of you first, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But Elijah, we haven't had a lot of requests, have we? People like, I need money for a plane ticket, or I need money for a ride. I mean, most people like it's been just beautiful to see, more or less, how people have stepped up. And like just like all these people who are like, oh man, I don't think I can afford to go. I can't get, you know, I can't take the time. And I they didn't realize what a beautiful community that they had at the state level.
I thought libertarians were supposed to be selfish and they only cared about themselves. I think we've definitely seen, like, Joshua Smith is probably the front runner for chair, and he's been doing that based on donations, getting to every convention. Like, if people really need to, like, we really need to show people how awesome we are at taking care of people, because I've seen it so much since I got involved in the last year, and like, I knew intellectually that attack was never true of us, but it still kind of weighed on me, because when you hear something so many times, it kind of seeps in a little bit. But to see how not true that is has been a beautiful thing. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think it is an issue that as a movement we rightly so spend some time grappling with. And you know, at this point we have our own monetary system for the people, you know, Bitcoin, mm-hmm. cryptocurrencies, all that. And they are a very largely libertarian driven phenomena. All the various cryptocurrencies are, you know, it's a very libertarian, crypto anarchist type community. Mm-hmm. And part of it's like, fuck you, we made our own money, we don't need yours anymore. And we're all, well, maybe we're not all rich now, but we're all capable of creating wealth and creating value in a system that you can't really touch. And we are starting to get to that point, you know, on a significant scale. And I'm really excited to see what comes, you know, in this next phase of the movement of, you know, libertarian driven, community-based solutions of just taking care of people better than the state possibly could. In many ways, we already are, but not yet on a scale where we can say it's proven. We just have, you know, small-scale proof of concept, obviously.
Yeah. So we got our first question here. How do you feel about starting small in a city council, school boards, etc.? That's a question that we've been fielding a lot in Nebraska because we didn't get as many candidates as we wanted to on this one.
Yeah, well, I think everybody should run for something. I think if you're a libertarian, even if it's just to run a paper race, and it's just to be a paper candidate, to say I'm just going to file my paperwork. Maybe I'll do a couple interviews, I'll show up to a debate, whatever. It's free publicity sitting on the table. Go out and grab it, and I think we all need to decide for ourselves where we're most effective in that. To me, there is something particular about this platform that is the most important idea in how we move forward to a voluntary society, and that's the localization of government. It's not a top-down or a bottom-up solution. It's a bottom-only solution. Get rid of the top. Mm-hmm. That's how you get to a voluntary society, not maintaining the current power structure. No. So to localize governments, you take them apart from the top down, and getting this idea into the national paradigm right now, letting the American people know we don't need to be united under one government to be united as Americans. In fact, forcing everybody into a one-size-fits-nobody but the government profiteers not solution is actually rather anti-American. And so that's where I've decided to apply my efforts for right now. I have considered some other political projects that I would take on, which may or may not involve running for office should we not win in 2020. But I'm very confident that there's two ways this campaign ends. Not counting the way of me getting shot, because I try not to think about that too much. But if this is an idea whose time has come, either we're going to win in 2020 because it's just at some point it gets in front of the American people and it becomes obvious, yeah, we don't need a federal government, we're not going to do this. What's more likely is that we break around 10%. And one of the things that I'm working on right now that I'm very excited about is the New Orleans, the Big Easy book bomb. We are going to put 205,000 copies of my book, Freedom, the manifesto, in every single residential mailbox in New Orleans this summer. And if we pull this off there and it has a positive impact for our sponsors, as we hope, it's going to be very easy to replicate all over the country. We are on the verge of a libertarian moment where truly the country really properly considers the libertarian message, the philosophy, the ethics, the real core of it that makes the Libertarian Party the party of principle, right? Mm-hmm. That it's don't hit, don't steal, not unless you work for the government. And if we pull that off in 2020 and we just get 10%, then somebody is going to win on this platform in 2024. I kind of hope it's me. Ultimately, I don't really care because I know that it's the right thing for humanity. And if I can just have some part in moving the ball forward and know that I'm fighting for the side of human progress and justice and righteousness, that's enough for me. This idea of localization is something that is already happening organically. And if I didn't see that, I wouldn't say that it was the future, that this thing's going to come out of nowhere, some crazy phenomenon. No, but this is something that we already see in Catalonia. We see in the Scottish independence vote. We see in Brexit. We see in Jefferson State. We see in the 51st State Project in northern Colorado. We see it in the Alaska, Hawaii, Vermont, New Hampshire, California, Texas, all the independence movements at the state level across the country, all over the world, people saying, we don't need to be governed by central authorities. We'll do just fine here on our own. And eventually that gets government down to the community level, to the county, to the city, and at that point, it's pretty close to voluntary. As libertarians, we're done. You think about it, we get government just in the United States. If we got government down to the county level and you could secede on your own land and become your own sovereign, we're done. I think there's a little more that's going to happen after that. I think you're going to see government down to the city level, different little communities breaking off. But at that point, we get to retire. And this approach of the everybody gets what they want strategy. Everybody gets what they want when government is localized down to a level where your voice and your vote actually matters, and you have the opportunity to opt out as much as you want. This unites people, left, right, and center, against the common enemy of big centralized government. The divides in the libertarian movement of this, that, and the other faction become irrelevant. Mm-hmm. So right now, if only as a vehicle to push this, I know this is where I am most effective, but it looks like we are in the best position of anybody going into 2020 to win the nomination.
Okay. Trying to remember, I had a question queued up, and then that
I got a little long-winded there. I'm not even like being funny. I'm just like, I mean, I gotta get this out. I gotta get this out. Because I mean, these are ideas I'm really passionate about, obviously.
Yeah. So, follow-up question. I see your point on city, but do you consider current Seattle city head tax? Do you know what he's talking about with the head tax in Seattle?
No. So
Seattle just passed a city ordinance that businesses over a certain size in their city will be charged a tax of $275 per worker per year, which was actually better than what they were originally going to do. But I did the math, and it ends up like 11 million or something like that for Amazon, who is the company they were kind of targeting with it. So, what do we do with that?
What's the question? Taxation is theft. Next question.
So I guess what he's trying to get at is it? Do you think it's important to run for those city council races, or are cities like Seattle just too far gone for us to focus our energies there?
Well, let me just suggest a different approach, because I think it's a yes and no answer depending on the circumstance, depending on the location, depending on the opportunity that you have to improve your community, that you have to spread the message, that you have to wake people up. So if I may step way back for a second here, the libertarian message has been misunderstood as pro-gun and pro-drug. And it is truly neither of these things. Because in a libertarian world, if you want to ban guns on your private property, you're allowed to. If you want to ban drugs on your private property, you're allowed to. The libertarian position is pro-private property, pro-voluntary exchange, pro-respect for individual rights. So it's not really pro-gun or anti-gun or pro-drug or anti-drug, it is pro-private property. So if a bunch of people wanted to come together and voluntarily form a community where guns aren't allowed, that's fine. I would be violating their property rights if I brought guns onto their property, even their community property, without their consent. Maybe you want to have a community where drugs aren't allowed. Okay, I'm not going to come to any of your parties, but hey, you're welcome to, set that standard. That's fine. Mm-hmm. And so I think this gets to the really important message of libertarianism, which shouldn't be that you can only have, government do this, that, or the other. It's really, you can have as much government as you want, as long as it's voluntary. And reframing it that way does kind of get you to go, well, you know what, is it that the city is so far gone? No, but people who choose to live in the city, are choosing to be a part of this socialist experiment. They can move just outside city limits and still be a part of the community and interact with the city. So, there is a very, fuzzy gray line around that. Now, taxation is still theft. And even a city government is still technically at this point a coercive monopoly in that city. And the people of that city would be better off if the city government disappeared entirely and they were able to form their own voluntary collectives with their own rules, yada, yada, yada. And that there would be organic groupings rather than the arbitrary, violent, geographic groupings that government imposes upon us. So that's where I would say evaluate the situation, evaluate the opportunity on a case-by-case basis.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go completely off that point then. and get into something different. I've seen you doing incredibly well on Steemit. Um, and like we use Minds because I get frustrated uploading to DTube. It's been a problem for me, and maybe it's just me, and maybe I'm just dumb. Do you?
No, it's all better. No, you're not the only one.
Okay.
I have someone who handles that for me, so I can really focus on content creation and interacting with people. But yeah, it's a chore. I wouldn't want to have to do it myself. So
Okay.
yeah, I totally respect that. That's the challenge. Like I said, it's in beta, and it's really important to be the change that we want to see in the world. If we want a world without censored social media that's corporatized, like Facebook, that's, hey, put your attention where you want to see the energy flow.
Do you think that the blockchain social media outlets are going to win out in the end?
Obviously.
Okay.
Now, if not, I do want to I want to put like a couple sort of long-term caveats on that.
Mm-hmm.
In the end, we might have something that like supersedes that makes blockchain like unnecessary entirely. But decentralized, censorship-free, yes. And right now, unless that next evolution comes on sooner, eventually you will have some blockchain-based social media platform. It might be Steemit, it might be EOS, it might be something else, and it might not be until the next generation afterwards. Who knows? I hope it's on Steemit, so it comes sooner. But there could be somebody that comes up with something called Super Facebook, and you just download it and you log in like Facebook, and it ports in all of your information from Facebook, but no ads.
Mm-hmm.
And a chronological feed instead of a manipulated news feed.
Oh, that drives me nuts.
I mean, if I had those, I would use Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
If I just had those two things change, I knew that I wasn't getting censored. I knew that people following me could have me appear fairly in their newsfeed. I'd still be on Facebook. Steemit's not there yet, even. None of the build outs from Steemit that I'm aware of, at least at this point, have the global directory capability potential that Facebook has. Yeah. That's its like dominant sort of first to market advantage right there. But it's just a matter of time. I mean, we could be one killer app right now away from Bitcoin displacing the dollar, literally, in a matter of months, and Bitcoin goes to $1 million. It's possible.
If we could make that Nexus coin instead, because I would like to make that investment feel like it was worth something. So jumping back, what was I going to say? All right, jumping back to Libertarian Party politics, do you have a favorite or someone that you're polling for chair, vice chair? Are there any races that are really interesting to you, or are you trying to stay out of it?
Joshua Smith for chair all the way. Absolutely. Okay. No questions asked. Best guy for the job. Really excited about having someone like him as the chair who's really going to take advantage of this as a national platform, who's going to be a grassroots driven candidate. I don't need I don't need to even go negative on any of his opponents here, to just say that there's so much potential with the National Party, both in supporting candidates and being a message carrier itself. They're just being missed. And what I see in Josh is someone who has the motivation and the initiative, and he's proven it. And now he's run this campaign, and I was skeptical of him at first. Mm-hmm. And I think rightly so. I don't resent that at all. But he has actually come a long way and proven his commitment to the party and the position. He is, I think I've been to more state conventions than anybody else this year, and I still didn't go to every single one I could have. I think I missed like 2 or 3 potentials, but Josh has by far been at more than anybody else who I've seen.
Okay. Are you concerned with how? I guess I'm not even going to beat around the bush. With the Arvin situation, there's a lot of instability because there's a lot of delegates that are going specifically because they don't like Arvin and they're going to vote him out. Do you think that's going to upset the balance of any of the other races? Do you see that having a negative or positive effect on anything else?
Well, if we assume that, I mean, let me back up for a second just to put that in perspective,
Mm-hmm.
because if there were 400 people expected to be delegates with no other growth factor, maybe the organic growth would be for about 25%. You'd have 500 instead of 400. The other 500 or so that we're going to see there are mostly driven and motivated by my campaign and the Mises Caucus. And Joshua Smith is the nominee of the Mises Caucus. And of course, they are also running Alex Merced for vice chair. He is the nominee of the Mises Caucus. I have yet to publicly endorse anyone for the vice chair's race, and I'm still a little uncertain about that. But the anti-Arvin vote, I don't think that's bringing like a whole other segment of people in who wouldn't be in otherwise. I think the Mises people are already definitely against him because they're already backing somebody else. I think most of the people who I'm bringing in are with me on this. I think some of them are like, whatever, we don't care. But my take with Arvin is that it's just, it's just bad messaging. It's just dumb. I wanted to see him censored and not voted off the board, and so I was happy with the way that the vote went for that. But I don't think it's worth making a big deal out of. I don't think he's going to keep his position. I'm not going to support him. But yeah, I haven't decided who I would support in the vice chair's race yet.
Okay. Is there so before we go away, is there any other races that you think are important or noteworthy, or those kind of the big ones?
I mean, we have a serious race for secretary this year with Karen Ann Harlos. There are a number of people running for at-large seats that are making those exciting races. But, I haven't really gotten into the weeds of all of that yet. I'm kind of waiting to see how things shake out, still going down into the convention. Mm-hmm. I'm just really excited that we have so many great candidates this year, that we have so many people who are passionate about making the Libertarian Party, the national organization, everything that it can be. Mm-hmm. I'm also really excited that the crypto committee was approved before the national convention. I thought we were going to be pushing that there, but that's already part of the national organization now. So that's really exciting to see that.
I was sad about that one because I got votes to be on that committee, but didn't quite get on.
Oh,
maybe next time. We'll see. So moving beyond 2016 or 2018 into the next 2 years when your race starts to heat up. So the obvious name that everyone's throwing out is Bill Weld, and from what I saw in Texas, he did look like he was positioning himself to run. Is there anyone else that you have seen that might jump in? Do you think you're going to have a kind of a clear way, or are there people already jockeying for position?
Well, actually, the other serious candidate for 2020 is Zoltan Istvan from California.
Yeah. I always forget about. I don't know why I forget about him. He's such a cool guy.
Yeah, he definitely brings an interesting perspective to the party, but it's not a very libertarian one.
Right.
In a lot of ways, it very much is a technologist one that is just sort of better technology-driven central planning.
He's a transhumanist, isn't he?
Yeah, and I'm for voluntary transhumanism. I'm all for. I'll be the second one to get the computer chip planted in my skull. Not the first, but the second.
Yeah, let someone else bite that bullet.
yeah, let someone else be the guinea pig. No, I'm not like, that's my personal preference. I like the idea. Well, there was an article out recently about getting. They had these trackers for cows, for tracking livestock, and they realized that they could adapt it to humans, and that you could like monitor your heart rate and blood sugar levels and cholesterol and stuff like that with a little implant. And maybe it's not for everybody, and I do have a fear of any new technology coming along that might empower government temporarily more than the people at large, more than its victims. The long-term trend of technology is always to distribute power more evenly. That's one of the cool things about technology itself. So I'm very wary. Right now my practice is just like live by my principles, be transparent, assume that none of my digital communications are secure. I don't fear any of this technology. I only fear it being implemented while government exists. Like I don't want an implant in my body that's going to measure my health statistics if government's going to have access to that data and potentially use it as an excuse for, some other screwery. But anyway.
So is it possible? Well, I guess.
Well, so between, I'm actually really glad that Zoltan is running with Bill Weld and myself, because they split the statist vote. And so if I get the libertarian vote, it'd be pretty easy to win the nomination.
All right. What was the other thing I was going to ask you? Oh, the thing where you got all that free press for going into jail. How did that? I haven't seen how that turned out. Has it worked itself out yet? Or
I haven't been charged yet.
Oh,
it's kind of a weird situation. Now, apparently, this is normal in Texas that with drug arrests, they don't formally charge you until the lab results have come back. So at that point, maybe something will happen. But if you saw the video of that, I'm not really worried about any of that evidence that they may or may not have planted holding up in court at all.
Yeah. So can't take that long to get a drug sample back, can it? Like
they said typically it was 4 to 5 months. So I guess it's been 4 months now.
Man, that government efficiency right there, that's good stuff. Private sector can do that in a week. Government 4 to 5 months. Are there any other libertarians running like other campaigns that you've been watching? Is there anything that you've been, I guess, like going and taking part of that you want to talk about?
Part of me wants to say too many to mention all over the country that have been awesome, but there is one standing out right now, and that's Laura Ebke in Nebraska, because she just won her primary, which is a top 2 open nonpartisan race. And so she finished second, so she advances to the general election. And she is a Republican who switched to Libertarian relatively recently. And this is her first time running as a Libertarian. She's running for re-election, so it's really important that she wins. And, the establishment is especially going to try to defeat her to send a message to anybody else. Stay with the parties, stay with the old parties, or we're going to marshal our forces against you if you go Libertarian. And
it's such a weird race, though, because the guy that was the establishment person just got destroyed, and the guy that moved on with her is a very anti-Ricketts Republican. So the Republican Party already lost.
Yeah, right.
Now, my fellow Nebraskans, we must rise up and finish the fight here. But JJ says thank you for the Ebke shout out.
Yeah. So anyway, so her general election isn't coming up until November with the general election date. So after national, we're going to be focusing some more of our efforts on getting her some volunteers and possibly doing some fundraising for her.
Cool. Well, if you guys come on through again, I mean, you're going to be here for the unconvention, so I'll get to see you. What? So you've got your conventions next weekend. You've got the unconvention, which we're getting really close. People need to buy their tickets, or the discount codes go away. Then there's national. Do you have anything between the unconvention and national? Because it seems like all the conventions are kind of up after that.
There is a potential. I've heard of an event coming together for a fundraiser for Alabama, where the party is kind of struggling there, and we might have the first Kokesh Well debate at that. Joshua Smith is helping organize it, so
That'd be cool.
stay tuned.
Are you going to that? I should have looked at the flyer before I even came on. The Take Human Action event in New Orleans. Are you going to be at that?
It's the first time I'm hearing of it.
It's like the Mises Caucus people are putting it on.
Oh, Take Human Action, duh.
Yeah.
I get it.
I got tasked to go and live stream it, so I'm just trying to figure out who else is going to be there.
I mean, I'll be there as much as I can to be a part of as much as I can for everything around the convention.
Yep.
We're hosting the March of the Dead Veterans. We're going to be marching veterans in formation with skull masks to represent all the veterans who have committed suicide from one of the VAs, from the VA in New Orleans to the convention center, which conveniently is just about a mile away, and doing a formation with taps and holding the flag and presenting it to the chair symbolically to say that, the Republicans and Democrats don't give a damn about veterans and are more than happy to let the VA kill them on behalf of the pharmaceutical industry, that this is a national crisis that has to come to an end. And the Libertarian Party is the only party that represents a real solution to that problem, and therefore we should be the party of American veterans.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm interested. Where can we go to take part in that? Like, is there a splash site for that or something?
Not yet. We just did a tentative announcement about a month ago, and since the reception was positive, we're taking it to the next level now. We're going to have, it's going to be thefreedomline.com/veterans, and it'll just take you to our Eventbrite page that has all the details for that. So that's coming, and when we do that, we'll have a promotion video and everything else that we need to do.
Well, definitely let us know when that happens, and we'll signal boost it here in Nebraska.
Absolutely,
a great event. So is there?
So that's you're asking like what am I? That's one of the things I'm going to be working on leading up to the convention. That we also have a Black Outreach panel featuring Cynthia McKinney, Maj Touré, Eric July, and Latanya Whittington of Houston Normal. So really excited about that. And we're having a crypto party, which will have someone from Dash presenting at that. There's so much going in this national convention, but in that time leading up to it, we're going to be doing on the ground outreach for veterans, going to VFWs, myself, my friend Adam House, a couple other veterans who might be living with us here in No Force One. As you can see, we've got bunks in the back on the Kokesh campaign bus. So yeah, we're gonna have a couple of people living with us in New Orleans in June, leading up to the convention organizing.
Cool. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Oh yeah.
Cool. So is there anything, we're kind of hitting up on time here, anything you want to say before we go?
I mean, when you put it like that, I kind of just want to sit here and read my book out loud for 3 hours, but I'll spare your audience and just say that you can get it for free. Hold on. This RV has been through a lot of challenging reorganization over the last few weeks. Let me see. Oh, I do. I have it. I have my my studio copy handy here of Freedom. This is it. The ultimate red pill. Read it. Give it to your friends and family. It's just 100 pages. It's unintimidating. It's easy to read. It is the complete enough vision that anybody who reads this has confidence in libertarianism, and that's what's so key to waking people up. So check it out. Get it for free in every digital format, including audiobook at thefreedomline.com.
Well, awesome. I forgot that was a free book. I keep telling myself I need to read it because I always forget that it's free.
I should say one other very important thing, since you mentioned Steam It, and I forgot to really complete the plug for that in an appropriate way. Anybody who is on Steam It creating libertarian content, I will upvote and re-Steam because I want to help you get a leg up. I can upvote stuff to the tune of roughly 100 Steam dollars, which are trading for around $3 US right now. So I get to do that 10 times a day. I'm basically giving out, $3,000 plus worth of upvotes every day on this platform now. So I want to share the love. I want to share the wealth. We're working on a Libertarian Party curation trail, which means that anybody who signs up for this to be on the Libertarian Party curation trail list, everything they post will automatically get a full upvote from everybody else on the trail, including me, or whatever upvote percentage you assign to it. Right now, I'm on someone else's curation trail where I do a 7% upvote that's worth about $10, 10 Steam dollars. It means pretty soon we are going to be able to hook up every single person who's a member of the Libertarian Party on Steemit with an automatic $30 for every single thing they post on that platform.
That's cool. Yeah, so when I edit this, when I pull it off of well, not pull it off, but when I copy it from Facebook, I'll throw it up on Steemit. So, and make sure to tag you in it so we can get that sweet upvote.
And the other thing is, so no, email it to me, and this goes for everyone. If you're on Steemit, if you're not on Steemit yet, get on Steemit, STEEMIT.com, Steemit.com. Create an account, do a welcome post, like an introduction post, like introducing yourself to the Steemit community, because people especially love sharing and upvoting those, because right now it really is about growing the platform. And we just hit 1 million users, so that's like a huge milestone for this thing. But they still love it when new people come on. So if you're new, I want to upvote your stuff, email adam@thefreedomline.com, and we'll get you some $100 upvotes.
Cool. Well, that about does it, I believe. I don't see any more questions. Jason Cox is asking for saying that they got some good people running in Washington and they could use some support. Definitely, if you're in the Washington area, go out and help some candidates. But that's all we got. So for the first not president of the United States, Adam Kokesh.
The last president you'll never need.
There you go. I'm Zach Taylor for the Guardians of Liberty. Have a good one.